Morning.
Morning, Matt. I'm all set to get started when you are.
Let's do it.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today, we're going to hear from Automation Alley, but before we do so, I'll pass it to Matt Bogosian for some quick and important updates. So, Matt, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Michelle Burris from the Century Foundation, one of our many BFFs like you guys. Good morning. It is March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Welcome. The Chicago River is green. And I've got green on. You can't see it from where you are, but I definitely do. And it's the last week of winter. Spring training baseball is underway. Somebody needs to beat the Dodgers this year. That'd be good. This is AMCC's National 30-minute call. Same time every Monday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, 8:30 Pacific. And I'm Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC, the nation's manufacturing community of practice. If you're on this call, you care about producing sustainable development toward abundance in making the physical things that we all need. I was fiddling around with a mnemonic this morning, so it's like it may be too cute here, but uh, uh, building abundant sustainability in communities swiftly, getting back to the basics. That's BASICS. And it does get at what we're doing here at the beginning and really end of every week, every month, every year, going into our second decade, strengthening the American project from the bottom up in regions across the country, helping manufacturers make smarter products in key industries, solving problems and improving the human condition. We talk about it at the beginning of the week on this call for 30 minutes, and we come together at the end of the week, virtually on the newsletter, which depends so much on you all giving us good info about what's happening in your region, challenges that you're seeing, opportunities, shortcuts, good stories about what's happening. So thank you for keep those communiques coming. Um, and because you can't top down this good hard work we're doing to rebuild this American century. We have different players who make up the manufacturing ecosystem of support, public, private, nonprofit stakeholders in every region, which makes it tricky, of course. One size doesn't fit it all. So we're building our collaboration muscles every week and trying to do it faster and better. Because why? The overwhelming evidence that we've talked about here many times is plain as day and identified in the Chips and Science Act of 2022. I'll drop in the chat here the initial list of, let's drop that there and put that in there. The initial list of societal, national, geostrategic challenges facing this nation. And check out this list, man. I mean, there it is. And that's what we're doing every week, every month, every year to make this an American century. So let's get at it today. As you know, we have two kinds of calls on Mondays, roundtable calls and presentation calls. Today's a presentation call, like we had when we had Dr. Gregory Thale last week, Director of Biomedical Manufacturing Network out there in California. If you haven't seen his presentation, like all of our presentations are recorded. David has them up. Our operations director, David Van Sicklin, has those up on our website. In this case, that presentation last Monday about the benefits of the regional manufacturing mapping, man, it's impressive. Listen to the recorded presentation if you didn't hear it, or get it out to those in your network about what their pretty intensive mapping efforts to date has revealed in their region. It begs the question, like for everyone, right? Okay, what are we doing in our region? How, what can we do differently to reveal more meaningful insights so that we can, co-create the interventions that we need to strengthen our manufacturers. So this week we have a presentation too from our friends at Automation Alley and their COO, Eric Davis. So looking forward to that, Eric, in a minute. But before we turn it over to you, as we do each week, I want to remind folks about key content that was in last Friday's AMCC update. So the weekly newsletter that goes out for free every end of every week, jam-packed with all kinds of useful info. In Friday's update, there's a bit of discussion about this manufacturing ecosystem exchange model discussion that we've been having with NAM, the National Association of Manufacturers, and state leaders wanting to strengthen key manufacturing verticals. So that's important. We had great talks last week with the Urban Institute about their Work Rise program. Conversations last week with the Employee Ownership Expansion Network. We've talked a lot about here on this Monday call over the years about this silver tsunami facing the 250,000 manufacturers around the country, owned by, aging out folks. What happens? How do we get those to the next generation? Employee ownership and those kinds of tactics, I think, are really, really promising, and so excited about those conversations. Also, a new podcast with the leader of Forge, where you can listen, and others in your region network can listen to some of their early successful efforts in enabling something like 1,000 hard tech startups succeed with a really high survival rate, and helping hard tech startups get to scale in producing smarter products that solve problems. So the update is good. It's got lots of info. Keep it coming to us, and we'll keep turning it around. And there we go. On this call, of course, it's in part about building relationships. The way systems change works, we all need to build stronger, authentic, and trusted relationships, right? And so that is a precondition, really, to building those shared narratives and building better strategies and actions, and ultimately better structures that we can make this an American century. So at the beginning of these calls every week, even when we have presentations like we do with Eric today, we want to take a minute if there's somebody who wants to introduce themselves or reintroduce themselves quickly before we turn to Eric. Please, raise your hand, or I just call people out too. So there's that. How about Jen Guarino? Hi, Jen. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Where are you in the world? Yeah.
Yeah, so we are in Detroit. Hello, everybody. Nice to be hopping back on here again. I am the CEO of the Industrial Sewing and Innovation Center, fondly referred to as Isaac. Nice to see everyone.
Great. Hey, Jeff Porter, welcome. Where are you in the world?
Oh, you called me out last week. There's two in a row. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. I recently retired from the federal government, but the decision was made before the recent chaos. Coaching, consulting, and advisory around strategy and process, background in manufacturing before federal government. So engaging here to see where I can add some value.
Mark Whitney down in Virginia, welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to be here, as always. Just to share, we this past weekend, we had 21 high school teams, over 100 high school students demonstrating their research project that they had to do for us. About 20 industrial partners. It's just inspiring to see the future, that if we do this right, there is untapped enthusiasm to get into everything from trades to engineering into the industrial base. So thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, and appreciate you highlighting that story, right? We're building better on-ramps in regions around the country, and we need to do that quicker and faster to face the dictators and thieves that are out there trying to get at the American project here. So thanks, and use the chat. I say this every week, but it's an important tool, I think, and we see a lot of people. It's great to see Austin Smith from the Lawrence Livermore National Lab put in there, and so many others. David McFeeters-Crone, lots of Daniel Weirman from the CNC Career Network. Put your name, affiliation, and email in chat. Stuart Bass from AFL-CIO. This is the way we build relationships, right? We're busy. We got to get back to our silos and our organizations and whatnot, and we need to bring them along farther, faster. And it requires building relationships. And That's what we do on this call. And we're happy to have a relationship with Automation Alley. And that's why we have Eric Davis here, the COO, who's leading this Project DIAMOnD. So Eric, welcome. Excited to hear about this distributed independent agile manufacturing on demand project that you're doing for SMEs and additive manufacturing. So welcome to the AMCC Monday National Call.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone for being on the call. I'm gonna share my screen real quick and jump right in. All right. Assuming everyone can see it. Cool. Awesome. So yeah, as Matt mentioned, DIAMOnD does have a meeting. Project DIAMOnD is distributed at independent agile manufacturing on demand. And so this was a federally funded, along with Oakland County, project that's now a subsidiary of Automation Alley. So for those of you who don't know about Automation Alley, we're an economic development organization that focuses on digitally transforming our manufacturing base. And so Project DIAMOnD was an offshoot that came out of this, really out of the pandemic in 2020. Oakland County came to us with a need at the time to produce PPE. And so we noodled around and tried to figure out what's a project that we could do that could solve the immediate need of PPE, but also help transform our businesses. So this is how Project DIAMOnD came into fruition. And so really what the focus was on phase 1 in 2020 was to seed 3D printers across Oakland County, and Macomb County was included in that as well. So 250 went to Oakland, 50 went to Macomb, and then we also had a couple higher end metal 3D printers that got distributed. And the idea was, and this is where the independent agile manufacturing on demand piece of it comes into play, is how do we produce parts at the click of a button across many manufacturers? And so in partnership with Mark Forge, they helped develop what we called at the time the Command Center. And we ended up not testing on PPE by the time we got to that point in the program. Supply chains had pretty much been okay, so there wasn't a huge need for it. However, we did get an order from that was a result of the war effort in Ukraine, where they needed tourniquet clips to be produced. And so what we did is Oakland County pushed a button and sent an order out to the 300 manufacturers across Oakland and Macomb County. We ended up having over 100 manufacturers participate in this effort, and then produce tens of thousands of these little tourniquet clips. So I was able to validate the idea of, if something were to happen in a national emergency, or even on a smaller scale, how can smaller manufacturers participate in larger orders, which was the need, which was the business case that we saw as an economic development organization. This was the mechanism for them to do it. And so we got through phase 1, that was a success, but there was obviously a lot of lessons we learned from phase 1. One was, you can give someone a 3D printer, but they're not exactly going to know how to use it. In fact, we've gotten some of them returned, and I don't think they ever opened them out of the box. So in this time, since we had more time to plan, put some more effort behind it, there's a little bit more deliberateness with this program. So in phase 2, which we launched at the end of 23, we have 3 additional components to the printer distribution. We have what's called digital transformation centers. So we have one that's based in Auburn Hills, Michigan, in partnership with a firm called GeoFabrica. And so they actually produce their own 3D printing equipment, and they're a manufacturer and engineering and design firm. And this is a way for companies to, if they've graduated from their base printer. So in this round, we're giving out either Mark Forge Onyx Pros or Prusa XLs. As they start using those printers, there's going to be use cases where they just can't use those printers, either for prototyping or for production at scale. And so the DTC allows them to use higher grade, higher industrial printers. So we have 2 Stratasys H350 machines that uses nylon PA12 to produce some high strength, lightweight material. We also have a metal wire machine, a Meltio 450, so they can use titanium, stainless steel. Some of the companies who are in the aerospace or medical side of things. And then we have some post-processing equipment and some scanning equipment as well. So right now it's just for training purposes, but we're looking to launch it commercially, so that way companies can start doing orders and start taking advantage of these machines themselves, because they may not have the capital up front. So looking to seed that effort in Oakland County. The other piece of it was the training. So we learned that, companies need to learn not just the technical side of 3D printing, but also the business side of 3D printing. So we take them through a 10-week course that we're going to end up making digital over the next few months, in which they learn the technical side. So how do they use their 3D printer, designing, all those different components, post-processing, but then also how do you automate your marketing and sales, how you build a business case around the 3D printer, those pieces. And then the final component is we needed some way for companies to produce and buy 3D printed parts securely. And so we've worked with Markforged in taking their Eiger software platform and making it a community oriented software platform. So they've developed that piece, and now we're in the configuration and testing phase with a few different users. And the idea is for companies, especially small to medium-sized manufacturers, to be able to put their parts up on the network, sell them to other companies. They can buy them securely, and they're not at risk of getting that IP stolen, which we think is a huge issue amongst our small to medium-sized companies. So who qualifies for Project Diamonds? Obviously manufacturers. We've also expanded upon engineering design firms. But honestly, one of the things that we've learned from phase one is it's really the commitment part. In fact, and having a business case and having an ability to culturally shift your organization into using 3D printing. In fact, one of the recent applications was a pizzeria. Did not think that they would be a good applicant. Come to our 3D printing expert had their interview with them, and come to find out they had some great ideas on how to use their 3D printer to create tooling within their pizzeria, flipping calzones, interchanging the dough, things like that. So it's interesting, some of the companies that come through the program. And now that company can now be a manufacturer. They can patent those designs and possibly sell them to other pizza manufacturers, or other pizzerias, things like that. So those are the types of companies that we come through. So it's not just those who are traditionally manufacturers, but also those who have the capabilities and are looking to get into the space. So the process is pretty simple. I know the graphic down there says apply and then receive and get training and start innovation. Really, after you apply, those next three are all kind of interwoven together. You get the training at the same time, you get your printer so you can start playing around with it, and then you get more training after that goes through. One of the other pieces that we learned from phase one is really amplifying success stories from our participants, because as much as we can talk about the benefits of 3D printing, it comes across a lot better when it's coming from one of our manufacturers, including one of them, Air and Liquid Systems. So this was a really, probably from an economic development perspective, a home run, right? So Air and Liquid Systems, before COVID, or right around COVID, they were looking at shutting down the business. And then when phase one came out, there was a piece in it where you could be an essential business, so keep the operations open and going. And really, that's all the owner really wanted to do. So he didn't use his 3D printer for quite a while. He just wanted to stay open. And then finally, they're like, it's collecting dust. Why don't we try this thing out? And he ended up taking one of his parts and reducing the cost down by 99%. And, the line here, strategically placed an engineering area to spark innovation curiosity. Really what happened was he said, holy crap, I can do what with this 3D printer? And he just went across the entire firm and just started saying, hey, every part that we have here, figure out if we can 3D print it or not, because this thing is huge. And so what that ended up doing is creating this innovative culture. They ended up getting a laser welding machine. And then in 2022, he was actually able to sell his business and then keep that business within the state of Michigan. So he went from shutting his doors, not having a chance, to end up to successfully exiting his business, which was pretty cool story. Unique Short Tree. So this is kind of along the pizzeria example I shared earlier. So they're a restoration and upholstery business. And so they use the 3D printer to help with some of the efficiency on the operation side of furniture making. And so what they want to do when the marketplace is up is they want to sell some of those unique designs that they've created for their own business to other furniture manufacturers. And then there's a company like Tucker Induction Systems, traditional probably manufacturer we would see in our space, and they're able to use those 3D printers and replace some of the parts that they've done with subtractive Now, one of the things that we really try to temper expectations with our participants is you're not gonna be able to use a 3D printer to magically print some things or replace all of your different processes, but it can be a good addition to what you're doing right now. And then eventually, as you start using it more, it may replace some of those pieces. In fact, we have someone from phase 2 who's gone through the program. They could probably do this a lot more efficiency, but they're a machine shop. And instead of sending out the 2D printouts of the parts the machinist can use, they'll 3D print a simple mock-up and then give it to the machinist. And they've seen a lot of efficiency gains from the setup time because the machinist now knows how to orient the part and can feel and touch how that part should come out when it's done. So those are just some of the simple things that we like to share with manufacturers so that way they know, what can be used for 3D printing. And so what we've been trying to do is trying to scale this across the state of Michigan and then even beyond Michigan. So a couple of the efforts is Governor Whitmer, she endorsed a statewide expansion across Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne County, kind of the 3 bigger counties within the state of Michigan. But really looking to expand this across the entire state and help get the rest of our manufacturing base into play. And then the other thing from a federal level that we've been looking out to that we got highlighted in was the Special Competitive Studies Project. So this was headed up by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. And really, this is the second iteration of what former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger had developed in a post-nuclear war world. How do we survive and move on from that? This piece of it is talking about how do we scale up advanced manufacturing, and Project Diamond was modeled as one of those moonshots, essentially, to say, if you want to have a distributed network of advanced manufacturers, here's how you go about doing it. And obviously the idea is how do we strengthen our domestic supply chains, making sure we're resilient, and then also getting our companies digitally transformed. And so obviously, as mentioned before, global supply chains, there's disruptions about, and it probably doesn't look like it's going to be tempering anytime soon. Is the norm that's been happening over the last 75 years of a global economy may be shifting and changing due to different geopolitical things. So this is a good time for a program like this to kind of step in, say, how can we make sure that if something were to happen, our small to medium-sized companies aren't affected too much, and they have a way to become more resilient in this effort. And so, one of the ways we have companies connect with us is to just apply. So even if you're not in Oakland County, you can get into the application process, learn more about what Project Diamond does and how you can be a part of the DTC and the marketplace and things like that. And then obviously, if you're part of any associations and things like that, we are looking to expand Project Diamond outside of the state of Michigan. So, reaching out to myself directly and getting in touch, we can talk about those different pieces as well. So
great, Eric. Can you put your email in the chat? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of good questions. John Betts is on our calls all the time. That's great to see that note in there. 3 things come to mind real quickly. Our friends in Texas, Bijo asked a question about, you were kind of getting at, just send you an email if you want to expand around the country. So that's one thread. Thanks for that, Bijo. Second to me is how, if at all, do you guys play with the one of the Manufacturing USA Institutes? The first one, America Makes, Kimberly Gibson and folks there at America Makes, kind of another kind of additive manufacturing federal investment, wondering how you guys interact with that. And really intriguing, this Special Competitive Studies Project. We have Joe Mariani on from Deloitte. So wondering if he's crossed paths with that effort and how we weave that into our work. So lots of good stuff. Let's go back to the America Makes thing. Do you guys, how, if at all, are you guys engaged with them in doing this work? Yeah.
We've engaged with them in the preparation part of phase 2, but we haven't done anything active with them quite yet. So I mean, we're always looking for opportunities there, but nothing concrete in this phase of Project Diamond.
Cool. Let's see. Other Joe Mariani at Deloitte. Are you familiar with this Special Competitive Studies Project? And what Eric described.
Oh, thanks, Matt. No, yeah, personally not familiar with it. So yeah, let me connect with some of our additive folks who actually also lead a lot of the kind of manufacturing ecosystem stuff that we do. So let me make that connection on our side and see if there's an opportunity there.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's great. Very cool story. I mean, you know, what's the one you had there, Eric, about the air and liquid systems story? I mean, that just blows you away, like the 99% reduction of cost there. Is it just that they were desperate? They finally turned to it? Like, you know, what's the secret sauce, right, to get that analysis to happen quicker on you know, more manufacturing floors, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think from our end, it's the constant, you know, not constant is reaching out to these companies and keep sharing from different angles all these different success stories. And at that time in phase one, we had lunch and learns. So that was ways for companies to come on and learn about what other companies were doing and different efforts like that. Even in phase two, we started doing a user group. So it's just an informal meeting every Tuesday we had locally for some of the companies to come in and kind of connect with each other. I think it's the repetitive going in and saying, hey, this is what you can do, this is what you can do, and finally wearing people down to be like, yeah, okay, I'll try this out. And the air and liquid system wasn't the only company that was like that. I can think of another company where they, and candidly, in one of the lunch and learns, they said, you know, I played around with 3D printing and I didn't see the big deal. Like, I just got this because it was a free printer. I could keep my business open. So sometimes you know, as we've learned in other projects in economic development, like John's probably talked about the implementation grant for small businesses in Michigan, is just making the investment a lower barrier and allowing them to kind of fail and it be okay also makes it easier for companies to try on new technologies. Because, you know, it's not just you know, they could probably go out and buy a printer. So, you know, these printers are around $5,000, but then they got to figure out how do they go about training, how do they build a case around it. There's many levels of you know, bureaucracy or anything that holds a company back. And so lowering those barriers to entry for them to participate. And then once they're in, really coming at them with different angles of how do you use this printer and what are the certain business cases that go around with it that will help keep them engaged and kind of spark that one thought in their mind that goes, oh, you know what, actually I could use the 3D printer for this. Let me try this out. And then that's kind of the catalyst that we see for transforming their business.
That's awesome, Eric. Well, thanks to you and Automation Alley's leadership in this area. We're at the top of the hour. We keep these things at 30 minutes because you guys, everyone's busy here doing the doing, and we want to be consistent in that way. And so we're excited about the work this week and going forward in this space. Thank you all. Let me turn it back to Michelle to close out the meeting. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Matt. Thank you for the presentation, Eric. And we are looking forward to reconvening on March 24th, next Monday, same time, same place. And we hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.